democracy. Well, it is good to be back in Pennsylvania and to be with so many incredible leaders, members of our administration, members of Congress, the workers of AFSCME Local 33 and 47, and of course, Pennsylvania's own Joe Biden. Yes. So before I begin, if I might just refer to the governor's concern about my attendance today. You worry a little too much. But as a proud 49ers fan, congratulations to everyone here and the Eagles. And good luck in the Super Bowl. So Philadelphia, the President and I are here to address a critical issue that affects every person in America: clean drinking water. Few resources are more basic and more essential. Without reliable access to clean water, people can simply not be healthy, communities cannot grow, and our nation cannot prosper. No matter where they live, every person in America should have a right to clean water. And yet, today, across our nations, far too many Americans do not. Today, across the West, historic droughts have forced millions to endure water shortages, wildfires, and billions of dollars in economic damages. Today, millions of Americans live in places where even moderate flooding can overwhelm sewage systems and contaminate drinking water. We've heard too many stories of people who, after storms, have pools of sewage water under their floorboards. And as a result, in particular in communities across the South, we have seen a rise in infections like hookworm and diseases like Zika. And across our nation, up to 10 million homes and thousands of schools and child care facilities receive their water through lead pipes. To be clear, lead is a poison. Drinking water contaminated with lead causes serious health issues, especially for our children. It stunts growth, it causes damage to the brain, and it affects a child's ability to learn. Last week, for example, I met a bright young leader. He's 9 years old, his name is Aiden. Aiden lives in Milwaukee with his mother, Deanna, and his brother, Jaden. Today, Aiden is healthy, and he is full of energy. But that was not always the case. Because you see, when Aiden was 2 years old, he was hospitalized for lead poisoning, twice, for drinking water out of the tap at the kitchen sink. Deanna told me that before Aiden's hospitalization, he experienced severe mood swings. One minute he was happy, the next minute he was sobbing. Deanna told me it was terrifying. Well, I think we all agree. No child in America should ever have to endure that kind of experience. And no parent in America should ever have that experience. And so together, with the leaders here today, and with leaders across our nation, we have made access to clean water a priority of our administration's national agenda. And with the largest investment in America's water infrastructure in history, we are going to see this through and get this work done. Specifically, we invested billions of dollars in flood and drought resilience for communities across our nation, in water treatment plants like this one, in removing every lead pipe in America. And just last week at the White House, I convened union leaders and utility providers and state and local elected officials to strategize about what we will do to implement these investments, to make sure that we move as fast as possible to get this work done. And all of this progress is possible because of the vision, the purpose, and the incredible leadership of our President, Joe Biden. For 2 years, for the 2 years that he has been president and many years before that, Joe Biden has fought to make sure that children like young Aiden have the opportunity to grow up and to be healthy and to live up to their God-given potential. So we have a lot to be thankful for in our president. And now, before he speaks, it is my honor to introduce a leader who knows firsthand the impact of our hard work, the mother of an incredible daughter, a mother whose advocacy and bravery has helped children around our country, families around our country, be safe and healthy. Please welcome Jana Curtis.
Good afternoon. My name is Jana, and I am a proud Philadelphian. I was drawn to this city by its rich history, but 8 years ago, that history poisoned my baby girl. At just 12 months old, she had a blood level of 14. That's 4 times the action level set by the CDC today. The first phone call with the pediatrician was terrifying. Damage from lead is permanent, she said, irreversible. Potential loss of IQ, low weight gain, sleep disturbances, speech delays. And when the public health official told me that lead poisoning was 100% preventable, I was heartbroken. Now, since that day, we've done everything we can for our little girl. Blood tests, speech therapists, early intervention, endless appointments. And while we will never know what potential was stolen from her, today she is a thriving, beautiful little girl. With the help of advocacy groups like Children First, I transformed my guilt into action by helping to pass lead-safe rental laws, improve building codes, and fight for universal testing. The real solutions prevent lead poisoning before it happens. The real solutions take leadership. For decades, we have told parents, and let's face it, mostly moms, that to prevent lead poisoning, they should pick up a mop or put a water filter in their home. All that time, we have known that to truly stop lead poisoning, we have to take out the water pipes or the dirt or the paint. As a country, we accepted the lost potential of generation after generation because no leader was willing to act, until now. After decades of little action, President Biden and Vice President Harris signed legislation that will bring new funding and a commitment to tackle this challenge head-on. Our kids will be safer, our communities stronger. Thanks for their leadership. And that is why it is my great honor to introduce a leader who said enough is enough. A leader willing to act so no parent has to get a phone call telling them to fight an invisible poison on their own. Please welcome President Biden.
You did so much for so many kids. Think about it. What you went through, you're changing the life of thousands and thousands, millions of kids in America. So we owe you a big round of applause. And I love your earrings. Well, folks, hello, Philadelphia. I'm Joe Biden's husband. She's a Philly girl. So the first thing I'm going to say is, go Eagles, fly, Eagles, fly. Now the good news is I happen to mean it, but even if I didn't, I'd say, you know why? Otherwise I'd be sleeping alone. She is, everybody sit down. As the mayor knows, she is one self-assured Philly fan. No matter what. My wife hates violence, she says. I told Bobby Casey this. We went to a Flyers game a couple years ago. And the Secret Service is in a box and next to us. Anyway. And there's a fight breaks out. And my wife, who hates violence, goes, "Get him, get him, here, jump up." The Secret Service looking, where the heck did that come from? But anyway, thank you, Kamala. Thank you very much. You guys don't have to stand up here. Come on, why don't you go? You've been a leader in this issue for a long time because you know how much it matters. And Mayor Jim Kenney, thank you for the passport back into the city, man. You know, for years and years, when Delaware didn't have its own television station before everything was Philadelphia, I was as popular in Philly as I was everywhere else, you know what I mean? They had to cover us, you know? I mean, well, I don't know why I still am, but I'm happy to be here with the new governor, Josh Shapiro. Josh, you're going to be a great governor. And I'm mildly partial to Bobby Casey. He's from Scranton, not Scranton, Scranton. And we lived not very far from one another when I was up there as a kid. And I still go home. I want to thank you we're going to make sure, Bobby, that rail line goes back like it was in 1970 from Scranton to New York. I want to make sure that happens. And John Fetterman, you've been a great partner, pal. And you've only been there exactly 1 month, but you've been a fighter not only for Pittsburgh, but for the whole country. And Dwight Evans, you've been a good friend and a great supporter representing the community. And look, the relentless work of other members of Congress helping make so much progress. I want to thank our EP Administrator, Michael Regan. He is doing a great job. He's down doing a great job in North Carolina. We went just and stole him, just flat stole him. But you're doing a great job, Michael. Thank you very much. And thanks to the folks who run this plant and fix our water system here in Philly. AFSCME, plumbers and pipe fitters, laborers, all helping to deliver clean water. And by the way, all this money we're spending is going to hire union workers. Union workers. But before I begin, I want to say a word about the jobs report we talked about this morning. Next week, we're reporting on the State of the Union. I'll be doing that from the Capitol. And but I reported today on the state of the economy. This morning's report showed that we added, the economy's strong. We added more jobs, over 500,000 jobs this last month, and the recalibration of last month was another 500,000. We created 12 million jobs. 12 million jobs since we took office. That's the strongest two-year growth in the history, and by a long shot. And I want to thank the members of Congress here who are the ones who supported that. My initiatives that made this possible. Look, my dad used to have an expression. He said, "Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay." There's now 12 million more Americans who can look at their kid and say, it's going to be okay. And what it's done mostly is provide dignity for those families. dignity to be able to do that, because there's nothing worse than not being able to provide for your family as a mother or a father. And it gives people a sense of self-worth. We're here today to talk about the progress we're making in rebuilding America's infrastructure. With the help of this delegation, I signed the bipartisan infrastructure law, a once-in-a-generation investment, putting America to work to rebuild our nation's roads, highways, bridges, railroads, ports, airports, high-speed internet, our water systems, and so much more. I was given a copy of a speech that I made about 30 years ago saying we need an infrastructure bill to deal with water. I'm not joking. I had forgotten that they dug it up for me. But the point is, we've been needing this for a long time. This is not new. I remember starting off and working like hell on the lead paint initiative because that was such a problem. I've traveled the country in recent weeks and seen this law in action. A massive new bridge over the Ohio River between Kentucky and Ohio. A huge tunnel along the Amtrak line in Baltimore and New York, billions of dollars. Pennsylvania alone is going to get $8.1 billion so far, as the Gov can tell you. Just outside Pittsburgh, because of the senator, we just spent $850 million to replace a 100-year-old bridge, and the Montgomery Lock and Dam system is critical to our nation's economy is coming. Investment to increase the capacity of the system over 50% at a critical choke point. You know, Bobby Casey's been talking to me about this for so long, I think we're going to call it the Casey Lock when it's done. But look, I'm here today to talk about an issue affecting Americans across the country, water. You think it's silly, but water. You know, the issue has to do with basic dignity. Every American deserves to be able to turn on their water tap or faucet and be able to drink clean water. But we're the richest, most prosperous nation in the world. Water ought to be something that's just guaranteed. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Right now, there are an estimated 160,000 service lines carrying water into homes and schools in Pennsylvania, including an estimated 20,000 lines for homes here in the city of Philadelphia. 10 million families across the country, and hundreds of thousands of schools, and where school children and daycare centers exist, that their water is pumped through lead pipes, lead valves, and lead fixtures. And folks, look, the problem is almost in every state, but it's especially bad in older cities in the Midwest and here in the Northeast. Many houses built in the last century. An average age of water and sewer pipes in the U.S. is nearly 50 years old. And they're often even older in major cities like Philadelphia. Many water mains and pipes in the country are nearing the end of their useful lives. And our water systems break down, the pipes start to deteriorate, exposure to lead and pipes increases. And beyond lead pipes, there's as many as 24 million housing units that have significant problems with lead-based paint. And here's why it matters. I know we talk about it generically, but it really matters. Exposure to lead impacts children's brain development. It's hazardous to the health. No amount of lead in water is safe, none. No amount is safe. It can damage the brain and kidneys, interfere with the production of red blood cells that the body needs to carry oxygen. And despite these dangerous health effects, the CDC estimates that over half of American children could be exposed to lead, with the exposure often coming from their own homes. The problem disproportionately affects low-income families. As White said, people of color are much more likely to live in homes where lead exposure is an issue. This is the United States of America, for God's sake. This is not, we know better than that. And we know we're proving it. Look, the Vice President and I made a commitment to replace every single service line in every part of the country over the next decade by using, not most, every. We're using every tool at our disposal to get it done. When I took office, I signed the American Rescue Plan, which the governor indirectly referred to. It sent $350 billion to state and local governments. And we said they could use it for things like replacing lead lines and lead fixtures in their communities. I'm proud the city of Pittsburgh used, I'm not misspeaking here, used $17.5 million as part of their plan to replace lead service lines in the city by 2026. But they got to do that through this state and we've got to do it throughout the country. Today we're here to talk about a record funding for infrastructure law that provides clean water with $15 billion, with a B, set aside specifically for lead pipes or lead service removal. Pennsylvania, as referenced earlier, already has gotten $240 million they can use to upgrade the water system, and they'll get an additional funding each year for the next 4 years. They sent $160 million of that money here to Philadelphia to upgrade water treatment plants and to replace older water mains and lead pipes. Philadelphia's water department is going to start by using the money to replace approximately 19 miles of 100-year-old water lines. They're 100 years old. Today we're announcing a $340 million loan, which is under a program that exists in the government at very low interest rates and a stretched time to pay it back. And they'll be able to save a lot of money in the process and lives. The first $20 million is going to replace 160 service lines and 15 miles of distribution mains, which are going to protect public health and prevent additional water main breaks. Look, we're also announcing that Pennsylvania is one of 4 states that's part of a new partnership with mayors and governors and labor leaders to accelerate the replacement of lead pipes in places that need it the most, where their pipes haven't been replaced for half a century. We're not just doing this work here in Philly, we're doing it across the country, from coast to coast in the American heartland. Just over a year ago, we launched the Lead Pipe and Paint Action Plan to coordinate 10 different federal agencies, get all 10 of them together so that we could pool money and get it out the door quickly. Since the start of the Biden-Harris administration, we've already put more than $5 billion to work in big cities and places the work are going to increase, and we're going to increase the amount of money in years to come. This is a 10-year project for all of this we're going to be doing. Not the individual project, but 10 years the money's going to be available. And one of the things about infrastructure law that I'm most excited about is we're doing this with American workers and with products made in America and with union labor. That's the condition we wrote into it. I know, and maybe even some of you think I'm too pro-union. Well, it's not, but there's a reason for this. You know, everybody talks about college education. Well, to be a plumber and pipe fitter, what the hell do you think it takes? It takes you 4 to 5 years of an apprenticeship, like going back to school, like going to 4 years of college. That's why we have the best workers in the world, the union workers, because they're the best trained in the world, and that's not hyperbole. Laborers, plumbers, pipe fitters, union, electricians, carpenters, cement masons, iron workers, steel workers, communication workers, and so much more. And folks, look, these are good jobs you can raise a family on. They don't require a college degree because you have, in a sense, a college degree through the apprenticeship program, which is one reason why the United States, as I said, is the best trained workers in the world. It'd be a digression to get into, but we did the Chips and Science Act. Well, guess what? One of the companies investing over $80 billion in that. I asked why they're investing there. They said, you have the best workers in the world. And it's coming out of South Korea. The best workers in the world. Let me close with this. Folks, this isn't complicated. Every person in this country deserves to be able to turn on a faucet and have clean drinking water. And through the infrastructure law, we're making historic investments to make sure that they can. When America sees us making these investments all across America, replacing these pipes, building roads and bridges, that sends a message. We can really do big things. I think America over the previous 5, 6, 7 years began to wonder whether it could do big things. There's nothing, and I mean, let's think about this now from a historical perspective. There's nothing we've ever set our mind to as a country that we haven't succeeded in doing. Nothing, nothing. We're the only country in the world that comes out of every crisis stronger than we went in. And that's what we're doing on the economy now. That's what we're doing under this infrastructure legislation. We can move this nation forward. And I want to send another message too. It's a message of pride. Pride in our country, pride in our capability, pride. pride what we can do when we do it together. And it generates a sense of self-worth. It generates a sense of self-worth, knowing that you can provide for your family. I've long said, it's never been a good bet. Never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. And I can honestly say, and I mean this sincerely, and a lot of Philadelphians know me, I've been around for a long time. I have never, ever, ever, ever been more optimistic about America's chances in the world than I am today. Never. We're at one of those inflection points in world history where things are going to change dramatically over the next couple of years. And what we do over the next couple of years is going to determine, next 4 or 5 years, what the country is going to look like and the world is going to look like 20, 30 years from now. We reach those inflection points every 5 or 6 generations, maybe fewer. And that's what we are. We're leading the world once again. We are the nation that the rest of the world looks to. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright was right. We are the essential nation. We got to remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing. And the least we can do, although it's going to be incredibly expensive and take a little bit of time, is make sure that those 400,000 schools and daycare centers alike, when they turn on water at that school with a tap in the fountain, that water is clean and pure. We owe it to our kids and grandkids. God bless you all, and thank you for what you do.